This man never expected that by casually using insecticide to defeat a golden slime, he would set the gears of fate in motion. Kaido started coming to the first level of the underground labyrinth every day with his insecticide, simply because his own strength was too weak to defeat the goblins on the second level. Thus, Kaido became a professional slime slayer, showing no mercy to the slimes. Moreover, every time he killed a slime, he could obtain a crystal. Just by selling these, he could earn a decent income. But what Kaido never expected was that, as an ordinary adventurer, he would also have his day of becoming incredibly lucky. The golden slime he had just killed dropped a high-quality card with the words Valkyrie on it. Summoning her would grant Kaido a god-level servant, but once summoned, the card would lose its value. This made Kaido hesitate. After coming out of the labyrinth, he sold the slime crystals and learned from the buyer that a servant card of the same level as an angel could fetch 1 billion yen. This left Kaido somewhat dumbfounded, unable to fully grasp the situation. He had never imagined that the card he had picked up could suddenly make him wealthy and elevate his life to its peak. Kaido looked at the card, lost in thought. So much so that on his way home, he kept thinking about the card. When Kaido got home, he heard on the TV broadcast that underground labyrinths had appeared all over the world since 13 years ago. From the initial panic to now, where everyone could venture into the labyrinths, Kaido was one such enthusiast. He had previously gone to the second level with a classmate, but the goblins were too strong, and Kaido nearly got hammered. Therefore, he could only stay on the first level and farm slimes. But now, this card he had found could change his life. Selling the card would get him 1 billion in cash, but summoning the servant would give him a powerful ally. Kaido was torn, after all. It was 1 billion yen. The next day, as Kaido was leaving for school, he encountered a girl, and they went to school together. Because the girl was quite attractive, she immediately drew a lot of attention. Seeing this, Kaido slowed down his pace to put some distance between them. But the girl seemed unhappy and slowed down to walk alongside Kaido. Just then, 2 of Kaido's close friends appeared. Kaido told them not to mention the labyrinth to the girl, and to find a reason to brush it off. However, the 3 of them lacked coordination. One said they were going to the game center, another said to sing, and another said to go bowling. The girl pouted, looking at Kaido, and without guessing, she knew Kaido had been to the labyrinth again. But after Kaido's repeated explanations, the girl reluctantly believed his fib. Soon, the group arrived at school. Kaido started discussing the rare card with Kei. Since summoning the servant would make it impossible to sell the card, Kaido was torn between choosing 1 billion yen or a powerful servant. It wasn't until he glanced at the girl's back that Kaido quietly made up his mind. He headed straight to the underground labyrinth, avoiding the surveillance cameras overhead, and went to a corner to begin summoning from the card. Suddenly, a gigantic woman appeared before Kaido's eyes, only to vanish the next second. Then a voice sounded, and a young girl in armor appeared before him. Kaido was incredulous. The girl respectfully introduced herself as Sylphie. At that moment, Kaido was at a loss for words. He had expected a statuesque Valkyrie, but instead, a child version had arrived. Fortunately, Sylphie was very sensible and possessed excellent scouting abilities. She could sense the slimes around them. Sylphie led Kaido to a corner and then took on the nearby slimes as instructed. Despite being a young Valkyrie, her strength was not to be underestimated. With a burst of intense light, Kaido discovered she had a combat power of 170, 17 times his own. At that moment, Sylphie became a bit sheepish because she was hungry and wanted to eat the crystal from the slime they had just defeated. Kaido let her eat it, although he felt it was somewhat uneconomical. Once Sylphie acted, she needed to replenish her energy, which meant there would be no income if they fought all day. Kaido then had Sylphie look for slimes, while he used insecticide to kill them, ensuring they didn't lose out. Together, they caused ultimate trouble for the slimes on the first level. Soon after, Kaido left the labyrinth with today's earnings being 15,000 yen, more than 10 times his usual amount. With Sylphie, the Valkyrie by his side, Kaido had nothing to worry about. Previously too weak to defeat the goblins, now with Sylphie's help, he could finally challenge the second level of the labyrinth. Later, Sylphie could never have imagined that her master was such a strong man. With only his gear, he could exchange blows with the goblins. Although she could kill a goblin with just one skill, Kaido enjoyed the fight. Previously, He had been beaten by goblins and was still quite fearful of them. To regain his reputation, Kaito directly challenged a goblin to a one-on-one duel. Of course, if he couldn't handle it, he would need Sylphie's help, which left the goblin speechless. In the ensuing battle, the goblin was accidentally killed by Kaito, becoming a ghost under his stick. Kaito burst into tears upon seeing this, finally avenging the past beating. Sylphie watched, bewildered, as the subsequent battles were all handled by her. Kaito's efficiency was too slow. Sylphie only needed to activate her built-in skills to defeat the goblins. This time, Kaito's haul included 4 goblin crystals, which surprised the buyer. She hadn't expected someone who usually hunted slime to venture to the second level of the labyrinth and even defeat goblins. In the following days, Kaito fed Sylphie while farming goblins. His level soared dramatically, reaching level 10. Even his wooden stick was upgraded to an iron rod, and he received a divine blessing. With this blessing, Kaito's attributes increased significantly, and each level up significantly boosted his stats. Seeing this passive ability, Kaito kneeled before Sylphie without a second thought. If this was the work of a god, only the young Valkyrie by his side could have made it happen. Sylphie was a bit dumbfounded, and before she could speak, Kaito grabbed her little hand. Although she was a young Valkyrie, the blessings she bestowed were genuinely powerful. Sylphie also sighed, feeling fortunate to have such a master. The two then resumed fighting. Suddenly, a skeleton emitting a white light appeared before them, a rare monster. With Sylphie's help, Kaito successfully defeated the skeleton, though his role was merely supportive. The young Valkyrie handled all the offense. Sylphie was a bit hungry by then, so she ate the red crystal they obtained, which tasted quite good. After leaving the labyrinth, Kaito learned from the buyer that both the red crystal and the white light skeleton were rare items, worth 2 million yen each. Kaito's eyes dimmed. 2 million yen gone just like that, eaten up with no way to recover it. He could only feel the pinch of losing 2 million yen as he lay in bed back home, thinking about the 3rd level of the labyrinth. Since this level harbored multiple monsters, Kaito worried about being a drag on Sylphie, so he decided to fight alone in the upcoming battles. This made Sylphie anxious. She thought Kaito didn't want her anymore. Kaito quickly explained, easing her worries. Sylphie expressed that she would never see her master as a burden, but rather thought highly of him. With an unmatched appetite, Kaito faced a brutal beating from the goblins. The buyer, seeing Kaito's battered state, couldn't help but advise him to be careful. Kaito could only offer an awkward smile. After getting beaten up, Kaito began spending heavily on potions and gear to stand a chance against the goblins. Thus, Kaito returned to the 1st level of the labyrinth, where he found slimes easier to deal with. Using insecticide, he massacred the slimes until Sylphie sensed a rare one, a silver slime. Kaito made a move to kill it, and in the next second, Sylphie used her skill to finish it off, obtaining another servant card that listed a Viscount-level demon. Kaito was elated and immediately summoned it. Now having both a Valkyrie and a demon, he was on the verge of reaching the pinnacle of his life. However, the summoned character turned out to be yet another little girl. The boy never expected that the succubus familiar he spent 10 billion to purchase would turn out to be a little lowly demon when summoned. He had hoped for a sweet duo with a big sister type, but his dream was completely shattered. To his dismay, the demon Luceria was a tsundere with a sharp tongue, criticizing Kaito for being dumb and unreliable right from their first meeting. Even the little lowly couldn't stand watching this. After all, Kaito was her new master. But Luceria told them not to mind her words, as this was just the nature of demons, and she meant no harm. Hearing this, the little lowly lowered her guard. Later, to test Luceria's strength, Kaito summoned a slime. Unexpectedly, Luceria's fire cannon caused a huge explosion, proving her combat value of 130. However, Luceria turned out to be a glutton. After the little lowly unleashed a powerful move, a single magic core should have sufficed, but after eating one, she continued to ask Kaito for more. Not only did Kaito not make any money, but he also had to keep spending more. Thinking about this made Kaito feel a tremendous loss, and Luceria even mocked him for being a stingy master. Eventually, Kaito decided to take Luceria to the 2nd level and let her use another skill, Corrosive Breath, partly to see the effect of the skill, and partly because goblins were worth much more than slimes, minimizing his losses. The skill was terrifying, and even just watching it felt chilling. The loot was easily secured, and now with protectors by his side, Kaido finally dared to enter the third level of the dungeon, where most monsters appeared in pairs. He even bought a new weapon. Upon encountering a monster, he intended to take one down first, but his shot went awry. The monster charged at him, but, fortunately, in a critical moment, the little lowly deployed a barrier, followed by Luceria's cooperative attack, securing their loot. Luceria always complained that what was given to her was not enough, and if she continued to eat like this, all the day's efforts would be wasted. She even harshly threatened to send Kaito to hell, which worried Sylphie the onlooker. Although the battles had become much easier, Kaito's income hadn't increased much. After each battle, he had to feed both the little lowly and Luceria, and as the little lowly's level increased, so did her appetite. Thus, to avoid wasting effort, Kaito had no choice but to return to the first level to farm slimes. This move baffled the receptionist. Given the loot Kaito had previously brought back, he should have had enough strength to advance to the fourth level, but instead he returned to the weakest level. Kaito, of course, didn't dare mention his reliance on leg pulling, and instead claimed it was a return to basics. However, to go to the fourth level, his current equipment was still lacking. His only choice was to farm more slimes. The next day, he found a special slime. To ensure nothing went wrong, he had his protectors take action. They quickly surrounded the slime, taking turns attacking it. Although this time it didn't drop the servant card Kaito had hoped for, he did obtain a magic orb. Dreaming of becoming a magician, Kaito decisively used the orb and immediately learned a water-based magic spell. He couldn't wait to test its power, but the result was disappointing. The water ball had no effect on the monsters. In the end, Luceria had to take action. Kaito was puzzled, but Sylphie comforted him thoughtfully. Luceria also reminded him that at least he now always had water to drink. Hearing this, Kaito regretted not selling the orb earlier. The boy never expected that the Valkyrie's retinue he acquired accidentally possessed the power to annihilate both heaven and air in an instant. Later, Kaito obtained a water magic spell. Although the power it released was almost negligible, the upside was that he would never have to worry about drinking water again. Moreover, Kaito discovered another use for it. By changing the shape of the water ball, he could block the mouth and nose, causing monsters to suffocate to death. Unfortunately, the monsters killed on the third level could hardly boost Kaito's level any further. Thus, he decided to proceed to the fourth level. He specifically purchased the battlesuit he had been longing for, which would protect him from being pierced by sharp objects, and also came with a bracelet that enhanced magic power. However, this battlesuit did not support trying on before purchase. Its authenticity could only be proven in actual combat. Upon hearing this, Luceria realized that Kaito was not reliable. It seemed that the performance on the fourth level would depend on her and Sylphie. Unlike the first 3 levels, this place was filled with green plants. As soon as Sylphie entered, she sensed an ominous presence. The next second, a giant cockroach appeared, and the frightened pair bombarded it. By the time Kaito realized what was happening, they had already breached the fourth level. He barely caught up with the two, almost getting mistakenly killed in the process. Seeing it was Kaito, Sylphie burst into tears. Although she was scared, she apologized to Kaito. As his servant, she should not have run away and left her master behind. Unlike her tsundere demon companion, she wouldn't admit she was scared of bugs. However, thanks to their rampage, Kaito managed to pick up quite a few magic cores along the way, though they tasted exceptionally awful. Now that they had reached the 5th level, Kaito naturally started exploring. Soon they encountered 2 monsters, but unfortunately, Kaito's physical attacks were ineffective against them. In the end, they needed Sylphie to set up a barrier, and then Luceria to coordinate the attack. Although they successfully killed the monsters, it meant that Luceria would have to take action in future encounters. The two, however, scoffed at Kaito's spoils of the day. Kaito had no choice but to opt for another fight next time. However, on their way back, they didn't expect Sylphie to be staring blankly at a wall. Upon inquiry, she revealed that she sensed an unusual magic power from the wall. When asked, Luceria felt nothing, and Kaito's investigation also found nothing special. Then, Sylphie directly unleashed a divine thunderstrike, blasting through the wall. Seeing this, Kaito panicked, worrying that he might be accused of damaging public property. Yet the allure of the unknown always piqued curiosity, so the 3 of them walked inside. But Kaido knew well that such situations usually come with dangers. Just as he was about to remind the others, Luceria stepped on a trap. Even more absurd was that the dark arrows were actually shot at him. Fortunately, the protective suit indeed proved its worth, thus saving Kaido's life. However, the pain was unavoidable, prompting Kaido to once again remind them to be more careful. In the next moment, Luceria stepped on another trap, resulting in Kaido being attacked again. Fortunately, the protective suit proved effective, allowing them to get through the ordeal unharmed. Soon, the trio reached the room of the boss, but it appeared that a special item was needed to open the door. Sylphie then blew the door open with a reverse strike. As they approached, they saw two unique monsters that even the system couldn't identify their attributes. With no other option, they had to face the challenge head-on. Kaido instructed them to first deal with the ogre. The two launched a combined attack on the monster, causing a massive explosion. However, to their surprise, their combined attack didn't harm the ogre at all. Kaido guessed that their skills might be ineffective against it. Fortunately, Sylphie's barrier was still able to block the attacks. He then assigned tasks to the two. Luceria was to take on the giant slime, while Sylphie stayed back to cover him. Since magic was ineffective, it meant that his bow and arrows would finally be of use. Indeed, physical attacks were effective against the ogre. Kaido aimed for its vital points, and although the impact was significant, he hadn't bought many arrows to save money and quickly ran out. Left with no other choice, Kaido placed his hopes on his water magic. With the bracelet's enhancement, the water solidified into ice, which also proved effective against the ogre. Kaido then transformed it into a massive ice arrow, and after 3 consecutive shots to the head, the ogre finally fell. Meanwhile, Luceria wasn't faring as well, because the slime's soft body kept bouncing off her attacks. Seeing this, Kaido suggested that he would handle the defense, while Sylphie used a new skill she learned from an upgrade to launch the attack. At the critical moment, they managed to repel the slime. However, Sylphie's strike didn't completely kill the slime. In the end, it was up to Kaido, the slime killer, who knew that insecticide was a slime's natural enemy. Without hesitation, he took out the deluxe pack, and under a double spray, the slime's health rapidly decreased, and it soon fell. This victory made the two girls joyfully embrace Kaido. At this moment, Luceria's level increased, and Kaito's level also rose significantly. Afterwards, he found a rare red magic core that the ogre had dropped, which might fetch a good price based on past experiences. As for the slime, it dropped a rare magic sword for Kaido, though it didn't look very impressive. The man received a magical sword that appeared to be nothing more than a small knife used for cutting steak. However, its attack power depended entirely on his imagination. The stronger his imagination, the more powerful the knife's attack would be. An iron golem which no one could breach was easily pierced when he silently wished in his heart that he could do so. In the next moment, not only did he actually pierce the golem as seen in animations, but when he imagined it splitting into pieces, his wish incredibly came true. This unbelievable scene left his teammates in shock. Just a short while ago, they had thought Kaido was just a novice. After all, for the past year or two, he had only been fighting slimes on the first level of the labyrinth, which hardly indicated any significant skill. But they had to form a team due to an official organization's activity that required a party of 4 or more. This time, the activity wasn't on the first level, but deeper, on the 7th level. They told Kaido that he just needed to protect himself, which he was happy to comply with, believing that his 2 major servants could easily kill any creature from the 7th level with one blow. However, there was a problem. If people knew he could summon both angelic and demonic beings of godlike power, the consequences would be obvious. As he was thinking about this, they encountered a monster. However, seeing that it was just an ordinary rock golem, they breathed a sigh of relief. The team leader, Eri, immediately declared she could handle it alone. She wasn't boasting. The fight didn't even last 5 seconds. Catching a flaw, she killed the golem with a single strike. Just as Kaido was impressed by her skills, a more powerful bronze golem suddenly appeared. Seeing this, Eri didn't hesitate and immediately had her 2 teammates use their skills to cover her. Hikari, the team's mage, used a mud spell to restrain the golem, while Mirai summoned her servant, a jewel beast adept in wind magic. Not only was it agile, but the power of its moves was formidable. Airi launched her final strike, which, like before, only took one hit to completely deplete the bronze golem's health bar. Kaido felt quite at ease, thinking he wouldn't need to lift a finger today. However, he suddenly noticed that a monster was stealthily approaching the two women. Seeing that it was an iron golem, he tried to interfere, but to his surprise, his crossbow attacks couldn't breach its defenses. After all, it was his first encounter with such a monster. Fortunately, at this critical moment, Airi arrived in time to shield the two women from danger. However, her expression was no longer as composed as before, because the iron golem was the strongest monster on the 7th level. She immediately asked her teammates to provide magical support. Surprisingly, neither fire nor wind magic had any effect on it. Seeing that everyone was powerless, Kaido considered whether to summon his two major servants. However, he accidentally touched a small knife, which he suddenly remembered was the magical sword he had obtained not long ago. According to the official information, it could inflict damage as imagined during an attack. Although Kaido found it hard to believe, since it looked just like a small knife used for cutting steak, he decided to give it a try. After having the magic user Hikari create a distraction, he immediately imagined in his mind and launched an attack. Kato silently wished, "Let the monster shatter." To everyone's surprise, the next second, the monster actually disappeared completely. Seeing this incredible scene stunned everyone, and they immediately asked Kato about the origin of his weapon. Upon learning that it was a magical sword from a hidden labyrinth, all three women were very envious. Afterward, they drastically changed their previous disdainful attitude, and even asked Kato if he wanted to join their team, considering that he had been alone until now. While the request from the three beautiful women was hard for Kato to refuse, thinking of his two major servants, he quickly sobered up. He politely said he would think about it and then bid farewell to the three women. But he turned back to the labyrinth. He wanted to know what his two major servants thought about having three attractive older sisters around. However, the expressions of the two women said it all. Not only did Luceria bluntly curse, but even the usually docile Sylphie couldn't help herself. They both agreed that things were already good as they were, and there was no need to add new members. Seeing their tsundere expressions, Kaido wondered if they were jealous.